right, folks, welcome back to yet another episode of Fresh Juice, an indie game podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Tommy Fresh, and joined as always, it is
Matty Juice. What's going on, everybody? Good to have you back for another episode where we're going to talk about indie games, indie game news, and everything in between.
You got that right. You got that right. We got a great episode for you all this week. We are talking about a game that we played the prologue, or did I just play the prologue? I forget.
No, we both did.
We both did. We played the prologue for this game called Hollow Survivors, which we were pretty hype on for the prologue. Let's see if they kind of stick the landing here with, is it early access or is it 1.0? I guess it might be 1.0.
I believe it is 1.0.
Wow. You know, it's funny that you have to ask, right?
Yeah.
Because so many games come out in early access first, but not Hollow Survivors. It is a game that is out in 1.0. We'll be talking about it. Does it stick the landing here from its time as a prologue, demo, etc.? It's kind of 2 games that we had like that so far. Did we do another prologue game?
I think there was one. Well, obviously we've done Goons, which didn't really have a prologue, had a demos, we played packs, and then we played 1.0. I don't know. There probably was another one in there that we did a prologue for, then played the full game. Can't remember what it is though.
Yeah, me neither. But hey, listen, we've done a lot of episodes at this point. 83 episodes, and we're not stopping anytime soon. We're going to be climbing up on 100 episodes soon, which is pretty wild to think about. And I'm excited. That'll be the 3rd podcast I've done 100 episodes of. You know, listen, if there's anything, I am persistent. But hey, listen, we got a great show for you all. We're going to catch up first. How you been? How was your weekend? What's new?
Yeah, doing good. Just clearing up some space at the house for the baby and all that sort of stuff. So we got to get ready to paint. Got to get ready to get new flooring. Hopefully, we're planning to, get some new flooring in her room, which is across from this room. So I'm hoping I want to get new floors in here. I want to get rid of this carpet. So this might look a little different in future episodes. Got a lot of junk behind me from that other room. So hopefully get that cleaned up and kind of paint this room too at some point. But so kind of started that whole process. Honestly, just like been putting it off because it's just like when the weekend hits, I'm just like exhausted and we're just like, I mean, obviously like Maria's not doing a crazy amount because she's pregnant and I don't want her to. So I'm like, this past weekend, I'm like, let's put it on the calendar. This is what we're going to do. We're going to clean out this room. And then next weekend, we're going to paint. So getting all that adulting done. Went on a date Friday night with Maria, obviously. No one else. Little date night. And we went to this place called Tio, which we've never been to before, but we've always passed it. There's a few of them, I think, in Jersey. It's like a taco tequila bar kind of thing. And we're always like, we want to try that out. You know, we like going to like Mexican places. So went there and, honestly, okay, first impressions was like this place. I thought it was going to be like a little, not fancy, but like just like a certain level of like cleanliness. And it like kind of wasn't. But then I wasn't really worried because I'm like, all right, usually like the hole in the wall Mexican places are like amazing. Right. Yeah. So like, we have one right near us that we love to go to, and it's like, not like for a while their entryway smelled like body odor. It was just terrible. They had to remove the door because it just smelled so bad and it was getting all trapped in there. Anyway, but a great place. So we go to Tio, and as we're sitting there, like a spider just comes down from like the web right nearby, and I was like, oh shit, and like we like put it outside or whatever. So that was fine. But I was like, first impressions, I'm not like wowed at the moment. Then we got the food. I got actually one of their specials was a birria grilled cheese, which I was like, I mean, it's not really Mexican, but like it sounded pretty good. And I got it. It was delicious. But I got to tell you, I don't know, Maria also dealt with this too for the next few days, but like my stomach was like flipping for like a few days after that. And like, I know it had cheese in there or whatever, and I'm not good with cheese, but like this was like not normal. Usually that stuff goes away. So you know, I've been ripping some mean ones, I'll say.
Yeah.
Um, since then, and just haven't have like today's the first day where I'm kind of feeling like 100%, like my stomach isn't bothering me, which is good. So we probably won't go back, unfortunately, even though the food did taste good. Um, but yeah, so little journey there made it for a little bit of an eventful weekend. Also took a nap on Sunday.
Whoa.
I don't take naps. I'm
Me
not a
neither.
nap guy. And I was in the bed with Pluto, and we just both fell asleep for like 2 hours.
Awesome.
And I woke up. It was one of those naps where you wake up and you didn't realize you fell asleep. It's like the best type of nap. Just like that natural nap. So that was good. Got a little bit of my sleep back there. And yeah, so not really a crazy weekend overall, but a few things here and there. But I've heard you've had a pretty good
I
weekend, Tommy.
did. Yeah, yeah. Not
Yeah.
as low key as that. Now, I will say, in the Tio topic, now I believe, and people can fact check me, but I'm almost positive I'm correct. Tio is a chain owned by another chain in New Jersey, Tommy's Tap and Tavern.
Oh, really? Okay.
I believe so. Now,
That would make
Tommy's
sense.
used to be pretty great. Like, people loved Tommy's, but like then they opened like a billion of them all within
Yeah.
New Jersey. It's like every town had a Tommy's Tap and Tavern, and it really took us like a nosedive, I thought, in quality. It's like fine, like in a pinch. Like, I think we went to the one after we got the tuxes,
Yeah.
and like it's whatever. It's like quick bar food, but I think the quality is just not really there. And like Tio, from my understanding, is not really like authentic, and it's probably like a ton of grease, and that's probably what you were feeling rather than the
Yeah.
dairy. But
Yeah.
let bygones be bygones. Go back to the hole in the wall Mexican joint, and you're gonna be happy as can be. But yeah, I went to South Carolina, Charleston, Chucktown, for a music festival, High Water. The wife and I saw that our favorite band, Lord Huron, was playing. They were headlining, and then my favorite band, Trampled by Turtles, was also playing. It was a good time. Got to see Charleston the day that we got there, which is like a nice old historic city, very cool to walk around. We did a lot of walking, and then the festival itself was good. It was, just saw some good music acts, some people that we hadn't seen, hadn't heard of, and then some people that we had seen. Obviously, our favorite bands did great. We love them. That's why we continue to go see them. But there's one band I want to talk about, and it's talking to, like, my wife and I were talking about it the whole weekend, is that like we like some of their music. Like I have a decent amount of their songs on my Spotify,
Mhm.
and they're really, really getting big right now, especially in the Philly area where they're from. It's Mount Joy. Now,
Okay.
I
Yeah.
don't know how to frame them. They're either the best bad band you can see, but I actually think they're the worst good band, maybe. Because there's this thing, like, they have like these really great songs that you really like, but the live performance is just, to me, just always so lackluster. And I
Mhm.
think it really boils down to, I think as musicians, they're not tight, right? Like, you go
Yeah.
to see a good band, you could feel how tight they are. And that's a wild sentence, musically.
When you're banging a guy.
Yeah.
Charles Barkley reference for those
Charles,
who don't know.
yeah. So, like, there's something about Now Joy that just really doesn't hit the way you want it to when you see them
Mhm.
live. So that was kind of interesting. Counting Crows played. I'd never seen them live. That guy still has some pipes. He's
Yeah.
a really good singer. And you always forget how many good songs the Counting Crows have.
Yeah.
And that was a fun time. And yeah, it was a good weekend. Done with planes for now. Every single time you fly back into Newark, and like you can make all the jokes in the world about how shitty Newark is as like an airport and like a area, but the worst part about flying into Newark is the descent into Newark, because it, for whatever reason, I don't know if it's the headwinds from the Hudson or whatever, I think I talked about it last time, it's always bumpy on the way down for
Yeah.
no reason, and you're just like sitting in the my God, because we just land and
Just praying.
you're
Yeah.
praying, you're like sweating, and your stomach feels like crap. It's
Yeah.
just the worst, but it's like the most convenient airport for us. So it just is
Yeah.
what it is. But hey, got to play the game for the week on the plane again, Steam Deck. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And, definitely have a lot of thoughts on the game, and I'm excited to talk about them. But first, we have news. We have a Discord, folks. Check it out. It's in the show notes. Join it. Go in, say hi, be respectful, be nice, hang out. We're all friends here, and we'll juice it up in there. But other than that, kind of a slow news week, right?
Yeah, I didn't really find too much other than the fact that your two favorite co-hosts have
Ooh.
successfully pre-ordered the Switch 2. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Tommy Fresh and Matty Juice, we did it. We did it. The U.S. pre-orders came out, and hopefully it doesn't get canceled because I've seen that's been happening to people.
I
But
hope not as well.
you did through GameStop,
I
right?
did it through GameStop. I did get the confirmation. So
Nice.
it should be interesting. Now, I don't know if this is indie really related, but there is a game that is currently giving blueprints for a run for its money for Game of the Year. And funny enough, it's on the Epic Games Store, and it also has 33 in the name, and it's not 33 Immortals. It is Claire Obscure Expedition 33, a turn-based RPG kind of exploration game, I guess, like narrative focused. Would you consider this indie? I know that a lot of these devs came from Ubisoft.
Yeah, I mean, I probably would, because I know like the publisher is they're Kepler Interactive. They've published like Bionic Bay was another game I was looking at. Pacific Drive, I know is like I'm pretty sure that's a indie game. I know I should probably
Mm-hmm.
know that, but they
No, it
definitely
is.
publish indie titles before. I just haven't played Pacific Drive, unfortunately, but I know people love it. But yeah, I mean, I would say this is an indie game at the end of the day. I know it's like these days it can be pretty blurred,
Yeah.
especially when a game's getting so much attention. You're like,
It's
you
not
almost think
quite
like,
AAA, right?
right, yeah, exactly, yeah. Basically, that's the defining characteristic, right? Is like, well, it's not AAA, so it's indie, right?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I've seen so much, so many people talking about this game. I've watched some gameplay for it. It looks really cool. I really like how um, they've kind of taken like the turn-based side of things and really just made it more interesting.
Mm-hmm.
They're almost like these quick time events that you do versus like it being like, you have, I don't know, it's kind of like mid combat decisions that you're making, it seems like, with a lot of these things, which is really exciting. I always think of like Pokemon as like turn based, right? And like
Yeah.
that's very slow. But this one, I don't know, I guess they're trying to change up the formula a little bit. I'm still on the fence of whether I would try it or not, just because I'm usually not into turn-based stuff, but I've heard a lot of people say, like, ignore that feeling, like you should try this game out. But yeah, and I think also like the story for the game is kind of interesting, where there's like this oracle or like this person that every year they like write down a number. I might be getting this wrong, but they write down a number, and whoever is that age is like wiped out. So
Mm.
33 is like the number
Yeah.
that is down, and so they're trying to basically, I guess, stop that from happening. For all the 33-year-olds out there, but yeah, I don't know. It seems like an interesting game for sure, and it's gonna be. I would be surprised if this wasn't nominated for Game of the Year. I would be a little bit more surprised if Blueprints was nominated because I feel like this is getting more like almost like AAA level coverage
Yeah.
versus like Blueprints. So, yeah, it's an interesting one for sure, and continues to be a pretty strong year, I'd say, for games in general. So it's pretty cool, pretty cool.
Yeah, we'll see. It is a game that I would probably check out, I think, because I like turn-based stuff. And from what I saw, it definitely has a really interesting take on it. And it looks beautiful too. Yeah, Blueprints, really is, I mean, like, I think we made a passing joke about it in a previous episode. They're going to need to like release mobile blueprints or
Mhm.
something big halfway through the year to kind of reignite the hype on that game for the Game of the Year awards. But yeah, Clair Obscur looks pretty awesome. But funny enough, turn-based games. I saw somebody make a point about this, I think on TikTok. Other than like the obvious ones, like Final Fantasy, Pokemon, um, maybe a couple other games that are known for being turn-based and that are really huge franchises. What would you say the one of the most surprisingly best-selling franchises of a turn-based game is?
Is it? Do you know the answer to this? Are you quizzing me?
I know the answer. I know. Well, the point that this video had made, it
So
sold the franchise itself has sold. Let me get the actual number here. Since the first entry of the game, it's sold 130 million copies throughout its franchise history.
Um, and it's a is it a game that would be, I'd be like I'm thinking like Baldur's Gate. I don't know because they just had a big one. No,
No,
uh,
they have a lot of entries into their
yeah.
franchise. Like
Oh, really?
yeah,
Okay.
like a lot. I mean that definitely helps their numbers. You've
Um,
definitely played these games.
so it's not Final Fantasy. You said I definitely played these games. And it's not Pokemon.
Pokemon has
Um,
more. Pokemon's in like the I have the list up here.
yeah.
Pokemon has
Um,
480 million.
is it on a specific platform? It's on like everything.
All platforms.
Oh man. Okay. I don't know. Tell me. I can't think of it.
Madden.
Madden. Oh my god. That
Because
is turn based.
right? Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, it's technically a turn-based game. I really
Wow.
love that kind of that point that whatever TikTok. Shout out that TikTok. I'm sure
Yeah.
if you listen to this podcast out loud, your phone will hear it and it will feed you that TikTok. But yeah, Madden as a turn-based game makes sense. And I was like, that is so true.
Yeah.
It's not like a NBA Jam or something like that, where that, games like FIFA, NBA, that's more like RTS, right? where
Yeah.
football, American football, is a turn-based strategy game. It's just kind of fun.
Yeah.
So, just wanted to throw that little nugget out there,
I love it.
see how you tasted it and how you liked it. So, I'm glad you did. Now, speaking of tasting and loving, or maybe not loving, we have some juice, and we're going to tell you if it's worth the squeeze or not. It is Hollow Survivors, developed by Danny Deer. Shout out Danny Deer. Published by Playway and Game Peric. I think that's how you pronounce it. It is on Steam. It's $9.99. Not sure if it's on sale right now. I don't think it is. But the short pitch, it is battling through hordes of horrific creatures as you hack and slash your way to the top of the tower in this roguelike dungeon crawler game. Choose from a variety of upgrades and weapons and save the tower. Holy smokes, sounds like a lot of different roguelikes. Is like, is this Slay the Spire? Is this something else? Do we have to get to the top of something? Now, you go into this game and you see the survivors, and the first thing I thought was like, is this going to be just another survivors like, another vampire survivors like? And it definitely has those elements, but not as much as you'd think. There are only a little bit of sprinklings of what that kind of genre is in this game. Now, you hop in, you're this character named Hollow, and you are trying to get to the top of the tower. You have this kind of base area like you do in most roguelites where you have shops and different kind of upgrades, whether it's upgrading your weapon or your spell or whatever. You can do that there and kind of have this meta progression. So you hop in, and the controls are pretty easy. You move around with your left stick, and then you have your regular attack, and then you have a spell that generates as well. Now, the rooms don't end when you kill all the enemies. Now, it could feel like that at some points, but you have a bar above you. If you're watching the video right now, you can see that, where it fills up as you kill enemies. When you fill that bar, it ends the wave and you go to the next level or the next room. And basically, if you take your time trying to kill these enemies, more will spawn. So you're kind of like incentivized to be a little quick here, which is kind of interesting. Now, you also have your regular kind of roguelike upgrades. Like you start off your run choosing from 3, and you choose them. They all have different kinds of effects on different things, and they're kind of color coded in a way. Like, is this going to affect just your weapon? Is it going to affect all of your attacks, whether it's your weapon or your even other upgrades that deal damage and your spell? Or there can be stuff that like affects basically your dash or whatever. And so you pick that, and after every room, sometimes that shows up, and sometimes it's just a bag of the currency that you bring back to do the meta progression stuff. So it's kind of interesting here. You're going through this typical, you got to beat a room, you go to the next room, then there's a boss, and then usually the boss will give you better kind of rewards, but it's totally random what rewards you're going to get. Because sometimes you're going to get the certain kind of currency, like extra currency for the regular shop, or you're going to get stuff for cosmetics, or you're going to get these keys that help you unlock your new weapons and your new spells and stuff like that. Or you can even get these other kinds of currency that helps you unlock other stuff for the actual base area, like new stuff that will generate stuff to help you throughout your runs. So that's kind of an interesting thing that I realized as I was playing. I was like, I can't depend on getting X amount of certain kind of currency every time I go in. Like it's really going to feed me whatever it wants to feed me. It's very, very RNG in that way. And I actually think that's kind of good, because it could be a little stale sometimes if you're going through and you're kind of getting the same currency every single time, and you can predictably upgrade your stuff, which we see a lot of, right? We see that a lot in these games. And then also something I really found interesting about this game as well is as you upgrade things, like whether it is your attack speed or actually attack power, your actual speed, you can upgrade like a second life if you run out of health. You can upgrade stuff like that. As you upgrade more stuff, the runs get more difficult. There is like a sliding scale. Like you're still going to be able to beat like the first level if you keep upgrading and stuff like that. But I was noticing that even the first boss was doing more, right? When I had upgraded a little bit. Like, this is changing a little bit, not a lot, but changing a little bit of what it was doing initially. And then also like some more difficult enemies would spawn a little bit earlier in the run after you have upgraded a bit. So I found that pretty interesting, that it kind of helps you, not helps you, it's like it incentivizes the replayability. It's like, you're not going to just be able to breeze through the beginning every single time, because it is very predictable. It's not really procedurally generated, right? Because you're always going to run into the same bosses at the same time after X amount of rooms, et cetera, et cetera. So I like that. Some negatives about the game. Sometimes the hitbox felt a little weird, and also sometimes it didn't really make sense. Like certain enemies would spawn and then you get hit right away, and I didn't really like that as much, but it kind of got used to it, and you're just like, okay, I have to be ready for these enemies to deal damage to me this kind of way. So I like the gameplay here. It's fun. It kind of breaks the mold of that kind of Vampire Survivors and kind of gives it this Hades-esque style of gameplay as well, which we've been playing a lot of lately, and kind of getting a good frame of reference for other games trying to do the same thing. So I enjoyed the gameplay here, right? It's a good loop. I got I got into the second area. The first area is the woods, and then the second area is like this kind of more lava esque area, which is pretty typical of these games. It feels like it's always lava
Mm.
second. Woods first, lava second. So I got there. I had unlocked at least one other weapon. I think I had just unlocked the third weapon, and and then I had unlocked another spell. So I was making progression to the game. I put in probably like 3 hours, and yeah, I was having a good time though. I was. How'd you feel about it?
Yeah, I think the gameplay here is interesting. I actually, when it came to having random rewards specifically for the boss, I actually ended up finding it like more annoying than like, you know, I guess helpful, because maybe my RNG is just bad, but I kept getting like the basic currency. It'd
Mm,
give you like 20 of like that basic currency. I'm like, I don't need that. Like I've maxed out a lot of these things already. Like I want to get the other currency so that you can there's like these campfires you can upgrade. And then you can obviously get like keys to unlock the other weapons. So I kind of felt like I kept hitting like a roadblock where like I'd be like, all right, I made it through these rooms. I got to the first boss. At that point, like I'm getting through the first boss, really no problem. And then, I wasn't getting like the currencies I needed. And then the game does have like a decent amount of difficulty behind it, which I'll actually talk about that a little bit, like the art and the sound, where I think the difficulty of the game could actually be helped based on the art and the sound. But I think that the randomness, I understand how it could be, it makes each run like a little bit more interesting. It makes it more exciting when you finally get that currency you've been looking for. But I almost would have preferred if like maybe there was a choice of which currency you could get at the end. Maybe it gives you like two different random currencies, and you're like, all right, I definitely need this one right now. I don't need the other one. So something like that I think could have been helpful, at least for me. And again, maybe I just had some bad RNG. I do think the combat feels pretty good overall. Like it's satisfying to, at least with like the first weapon is like a sword that you have. It's satisfying to, just slice and dice and kind of get through the enemies. I will say though that like after a certain amount of time, I found like each level to be like not super interesting, because at the end of the day with these levels, I didn't feel like I didn't need to explore them. I just needed to get through the enemies, right? And kill them and fill up the bars as quickly as I could to get to the next level. I don't know. I would have appreciated a little bit more exploration in the levels, because I think sometimes, especially if you're thinking of like survivor like games, you find like these little secrets and you're like, oh my God, there's a mini boss, or oh my God, there was a chest hidden here, or like health was like I broke this pot and there was some health in there. I think maybe this game could use a little bit of that, because I found that like each level I was just solely focused on the combat. And a little part of me, I was like, especially in the woods, I was like, I mean, this looks cool, but I have no incentive to really like explore these levels, because they're not that big. And I don't know, I just kind of maybe was looking for a little bit more with that. And then, you do run across like, the same types of enemies that have like similar attacks. Some of them are like, for example, you have like these skull enemies that like they kind of remind me of like 33 Immortals sort of enemies in a way, where they give you a line that they're going to be dashing at, and you have to make sure you get out of that line. And then you come across like a different enemy that just does that. It looks different, but it does that same mechanic, does that same attack, but just more often. And I'm like, okay, well, it would have been cool, since this enemy looks so different, to have like a different kind of move set. So I don't know. I guess I could say I was a little underwhelmed with just like the variety of enemies that I ended up coming across. And granted, I mentioned the game is was a little difficult. I mean, I routinely got to the first boss and got past that, but typically when I got past that, because there's not really, at least that I found, there's not really like a easy way to get health in the game. There's something you can unlock where like when you die, you come back, I think with like 50% health. So that, that helped. But most of the time when I was getting past the first boss, and again, this could be a skill issue, I just didn't have a lot of health. So I was like, I don't even know if I'm going to make it to the next boss. And like, I didn't really make it to the next boss, but I was routinely like getting past the first boss, no problem. But then I just started like um, getting damage. And again, I'll talk about this in the art and the sound side of things because I think that part of the game could be improved and maybe even help me where I didn't really realize I was getting damaged, or I didn't realize how much damage I was taking from certain enemies. So I have my issues with the gameplay. I do think the core gameplay is good, like with the combat, and I do think that it is satisfying to like complete a level and to like ascend to the next floor. And then there's some of the upgrades are interesting. Like I was playing a run earlier where I just happened to get like more lightning based attacks, and even like a lightning strike would happen when I dashed. So I was like doing kind of a lightning build. That was fun because I was able to chain together like attacks. But I will say, like, I didn't find a lot of variety in the upgrades themselves or in the skills that you can get. Maybe that's something that like the more you unlock and the more you play, but I mean, I felt like I played a good amount, like over an hour, and I just kind of felt like every run I was like, all right, I've already seen these upgrades before, so I know which ones I like. I'm going to go with the ones I like. So I didn't really find a lot of variety every single run. And speaking of like having the boss, you know, be the same but with random rewards, I almost would prefer, for like the first boss you come across is like a big skull guy. It's the Skull King. He has a set reward, but maybe there's random bosses, and each boss has a different currency that you get when you defeat them. Something like that, I think, could have made it fun. I always enjoy when like I'm playing a game like this and I get to the first boss and it's different than the last time I went there, and I'm like, oh my god, like I need to prepare for this. Like we're playing rogue loops and like that happened, and it get there's a little bit of excitement there because you're like, I don't know what this move set is, I got to try to figure this out, and then next time you get to that boss battle you're like trying to be prepared for both potential bosses. I don't know, I think something like that could have been good. So yeah, I definitely had like my issues with the gameplay. I think I was looking for more based on what we played with the prologue. I was like, okay, the prologue is a really good foundation. I'm excited to see how they build upon it. And I kind of felt with the gameplay, they didn't really build too much upon the game, the prologue. Um, so yeah, that's just just some issues I have with the gameplay. But I do feel like the core aspect of the gameplay, like I mentioned, is good, and like they could build upon it still. But I don't know. I feel like some of the things that you were like positive about are like negative for me because I'm like, I didn't like that. But at the end of the day, too, like I said, it is a difficult game. So like maybe it's a skill issue on my side, which is totally fine. But yeah, that's just kind of how I felt about the gameplay.
I mean, you bring up some good points here, like especially about the upgrades. I ended up seeing a lot of upgrades, like a lot more upgrades, like as I played more. Like there's even like something you can um like pay for in the shop that makes like rare upgrades more like likely to happen, right?
Mhm.
Because the shop will give you a limited amount of things, and I maxed all of that out, right? And then you have to build the distillery, which is like another thing, and then you have a whole list of new upgrades that you can buy, right? So I got to that point, and you know, I I agree. I think some boss variety would have been nice, but when you get to the second boss, which is like I guess the final boss of the forest area, you kind of understand at least why that second boss will always be the same. And I'll get to that in
Okay.
the story side of things. Now, um, I will say there is a way to get health after you get to a certain point. Like once you beat that second boss, there is something that will help you just get health after every boss fight, right? So
Okay.
so like it definitely rewards you for getting past that. Now, it does
So I
fall.
suck. Just say it, Tom. I
Okay,
suck.
I
I'm
mean,
terrible.
you said skill issue. I mean, it is a difficult game. There's no doubt about it. But I felt like once I upgraded a lot of things, things were kind of falling into place a little bit more for me,
Mhm.
and I really started having success after I unlocked the great axe, which was the second weapon I used, which was like super powerful, super slow though. That was hard to get used to because like you start off with the sword and it's pretty quick, and then the great axe is like so slow. And then also you
Yeah.
mentioned the lightning dash upgrade. I I found a way to cheese the second boss with that. Which I mean, like it wasn't really cheesing. It just took me forever to beat the boss, but I wanted to see if I could do it. Basically, the second boss will chase you, right? It'll chase you around the whole part of the map, and you just dash away from them and slowly deal like 20 damage. And it just took a while to kill that boss, but it was funny.
Yeah.
It worked out.
Nice.
But now, in terms of story, which I kind of alluded to, this seems to be very story focused, and that is kind of what was expanded upon after the prologue, because you kind of were introduced to these characters in that prologue, but here in the actual game there is some real stuff going on. There's a character in the game or in the base area that's like, oh, if you see my dad, please let him know I'm here waiting for him. And then spoiler alert, if anybody cares to know, the dad is the second boss, but he's
Oh my
but
god.
he's like possessed, right? And like there's all these issues, and you have these other characters that kind of have a like not like neutral stance, or like they're not bad guys, but they will want something out of you, in the base area. And then you can also save characters in the game and bring them back to the base area, which is pretty common in these games as well. So, like the spell merchant isn't there initially. You find the spell merchant. So, I felt like the story elements here are actually probably some of the stronger points here, because I didn't expect, like with these kind of games, I never really expect a lot of story, but this one actually felt a little bit more fleshed out and kind of gives you more of a reason to like spend time with this character. So I like that. Sounds like you didn't get to a lot of the story elements, so maybe they should have been a little bit more upfront. But I do also like whenever you return to the base area, no matter, usually in the first couple runs, even if you don't get to the second boss, there will be people to talk to, and you kind of like it will tell you, hey, listen, talk to this person, and they'll say this, that, or the other thing. So I enjoyed the story aspect here. It seemed to be kind of the main focus here, which I guess should have been a something that we should have known up front, because they had a prologue demo. It's just like, oh,
Yeah.
well, that means there's going to be a story. It is before the first chapter. So enjoyed it.
Yeah, interesting you brought that up, because I was not aware, other than obviously playing the prologue, I wasn't aware that like there was more to the story, because I wasn't able to, skill issue progress as much as you did. So really from my perspective, I was like, wow, I was just like thrown right in. And like that sanctuary area, the kind of like safe area you're in, I agree. Like I think it's exciting coming back and being like, oh, there's a new like vendor, or there's like new people to talk to, and like their dialogue's interesting, kind of helps paint the picture of the world that you're in and what you're doing. So I appreciated that. I didn't really get a lot out of like outside of the sanctuary area, where I was like, oh, like um, I'm unraveling more of the story. But I imagine if I get to the second boss, which is the dad, I would then have realized, oh, you know, this is all tied in to what like I've been hearing in the sanctuary area. So yeah, I don't have a lot of notes for the story, just because I wasn't able to progress too much through it, but it definitely sets it up to be like more of a story based game, which like you said, like doesn't really, we don't really get a lot of that with these sort of games. So I appreciate it for sure. And the fact they did a prologue um, hints. Obviously, they're going to be doing more story elements, so I appreciate it for sure. But I didn't really progress too much into the story, so I don't have a lot of notes on that. But I did really like the sanctuary area. I thought that each character was like interesting and had some dialogue that helped kind of set the setting. And then yeah, I just loved like discovering new things in that sanctuary. So yeah, don't have a lot of notes on the story, but definitely have a lot of notes on the art side of things. What do you think about the art?
I think this game looks beautiful. Honestly, I mean, I like the character design here. These hollows, with their horns, they're kind of like this. It reminds me of certain. I mean, like definitely some animes from like our childhood, and even some like Dragon Ball Z stuff. Which that's anime, I guess. So
Yeah.
that makes sense. So I really like the design of this world that you're kind of in, and then the enemies look really cool. There is some repetitiveness, but once you kind of get like not to harp on the skill issue, but once you get to the next area, you're like, oh, the variety is even better, right? And
Mhm.
there's some like really cool enemies, especially in that. I mean, you can't really have them in the first area because they're really hard to beat, but um, they they were really really neat and like had some really cool like interesting moves. That's actually something I noticed as well. Like not even just like from a gameplay aspect. It's like, oh, this looks really cool when they're attacking you, and I was a big fan of that. Now, there are some not a lot of downsides. Oh, actually, I want to hit another upside as well. Um,
Hit it.
so you have these different weapons, and they all look really cool, and you can see yourself carrying them. It's usually behind you, right? You can see the sword if you're watching the video, but like your great axe or your bow. I forget what the fourth weapon is, but I didn't unlock it. But it looks really cool. Now, as you get the like in run upgrades, like the roguelike choice making upgrades,
Mm.
if they affect your weapon, the weapon will start to glow that color, which is so cool, whether it is the actual blade of the weapon or the handle. And that was really neat. That was a nice touch. There's also the cosmetics that you can unlock as well, like a different color horns or a different color cape, which was pretty neat as well. Now, you're probably going to hit on some of the same things here with the visuals, but the obviousness of the hitbox would have been nicer, right? It all looks really good, but like practically, there's some issues there. And then there's these trees in the first area where if the enemy's behind the tree, you'll see the shadow of the enemy. I wish the indicator would be a little bit more clear
Mhm.
because it can be really hard to see because it's a dark area already. So it's not super obvious. So those are my downsides here, but everything else, I mean, this is like a really good looking game. Like if you like the pixel art style, if you like a little bit of an anime style, um, this is like not like the anime style that is, I guess, probably more popular now, but it kind of has this classic look, like almost like the Studio Ghibli kind of look to it, rather than more modern stuff, which
Mhm.
I definitely really enjoyed personally.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think the art style really great. I actually kind of got like I kept thinking of like Dead Cells, not in the way that the characters look, but just like the fact that this game uses kind of like a dark atmosphere, but has these like neon kind of things floating around, and like you mentioned the weapon glowing. It kind of has like that nice contrast, and especially with like the way the enemies attack, it's kind of these like bright neon colors to like let you know what their path is going to be, things like that. So yeah, I'm with you. There's like so much detail in the game, which is maybe part of the reason I also wanted to explore the levels a little bit more because the art was like so cool. I felt like I didn't, I felt like maybe sometimes during the levels I got like a little rush through it. and I wanted to like explore a little bit more. But overall, I mean, I did really like the art. As far as I totally agree with you about the hitboxes and like the enemies behind the trees. I also had an issue with like when you take damage in the game, as far as I'm aware, the only visual indicator is just that your health it goes down like by half a heart each
Mm.
hit. Um, I would have liked it maybe I don't know, show me, like, a little bit more of, like, red around the screen, like, let me really know that I took damage because there were a few times, at least, like, in the very beginning where I was like, "Wow, I've already taken, like, half my health. I thought I haven't been hit at all." And, again, skill issue, but, I do think there could be a little bit more around, like, knowing when you actually take damage, and maybe I missed, like, maybe the character, like, bleeds a little bit, which is potentially the case. But I do think that there could be a little bit more arcadey kind of feel when you take damage, and you also notice if you're watching the gameplay that when you do collect like the base currency. I really like that. Like you see some of those coins just fly up in the air for a second. Nice little touch there. They didn't have to do that. I almost feel like maybe they could do something similar when you take damage, where it like shows a little red on the screen for a second, and then it like falls down, or something like that, or a little blood, kind of dripping on the edge of the screen, something like that to let you know. And then also I'll mention this again in the music, but when you have like a half a heart left or even just a whole heart left, I felt like there wasn't like a lot of urgency with the art. Like I don't know, maybe I'm just used to like Zelda, where like you hear that sound right, like when you have half a heart, or and you're just like it gives you a little panic, but it makes it so that you're aware you only have a half a heart left. And I guess I'm getting ahead of myself with the music, but that would have been nice to add into the game as well. Also, so those are some things like I wasn't really crazy about, but I think the majority of this game, from the art standpoint, really fantastic. Especially like when you ascend to the next level, it kind of like shifts perspective a little bit to let you know you're actually going up these stairs. Very cool little touch there that I enjoyed. You can see it right now as you're kind of like walking up. You're like actually like walking up into 3D space, which is cool. Um, yeah, so I think the art was a big strong point for the game, and probably what made me want to play the prologue to begin with, was just the way the game looked. So yeah, I think it's I think there's a few tweaks here and there that they can make, specifically around like health and taking damage and hitboxes. I feel like all those things can kind of be fixed in maybe a hot fix, or a small update. But the majority of the art, yeah, fantastic, and you know, made me excited to kind of go back to the sanctuary area and explore a little bit, since I had a little bit more time to do that in that area. So cool stuff for sure, Tommy.
Yeah, and I'm gonna actually let you keep talking about the music and the sound because I played on the airplane, so I wasn't able, and I didn't have headphones for my Steam Deck, so I don't know how it was sounding.
Well, this was if you missed out on this soundtrack, Tom. No. So yeah, talking about the sound and the music. First, the music. Really like more ambient kind of sounds. There wasn't really, that I noticed, like a significant soundtrack in the game. It was mostly kind of like background, just adding a little bit to the setting. Wasn't really, especially in the sanctuary area. It's like very subtle kind of sounds. You're not really hearing a lot of intense music, from at least what I experienced. Even in the boss battle, I felt like I didn't really feel like there was like a big epic moment that was happening. Um, and the music does like ramp up a little bit when you're in those boss battles, or at least the first one that I was in. But as far as like going through the levels, it kind of felt like it was more about the enemy sounds and your weapon sounds, which were great. I think it was very satisfying to hear. And yeah, really the only like big critique, because maybe in a game like this, I was looking for a little bit more of a soundtrack that like really bumped and like felt like it was in line with the gameplay. But I'm not going to knock it too much for that, because I don't really think it takes away from the game, like the current setup that they have. But give me that low health sound. Give me something where I know that, I'm either taking damage or I just don't have a lot of health left. I feel like this game kind of needs that, and you know, it's just not there. And I had to do a few runs to really make sure that like I was like, is it just feels like it should be there, but it's not. So would love if they added that to the game. Small little change there. And one thing also is Intuit Credit Karma is one of the oh, sorry, there's an ad on the YouTube video. let me let me go back here. Sorry about that, folks. But also one thing, sorry, I forgot to mention this in the art. I love the little when you go back to the sanctuary, they have like a little compass that's kind of like 3D, little arrow that's like ahead of your character that kind of guides you of like the new stuff you can go to. Love that little detail there. But yeah, as far as the music, didn't blow me away by any means. Really, my only note is I'd love a low health sound or some better indication that I'm taking damage from the sound side of things. But yeah, I don't know. I give the music, it's like a middle of the road kind of thing. Didn't really wow me because it's very ambient, but it did its job at the end of the day.
Amen, amen. And how did it perform for you?
Ran great. Yeah, I just played on my Steam Deck. So ran well. I know it's technically not verified for Steam Deck, but didn't have any issues whatsoever. What about you?
No, no issues as well. It ran very well actually, and yeah. Now it is going to be time for our rating system. We have an awesome rating system, and our best games are certified fresh juice. These are our games like Norp Apilar, Preserve, Balatro. A steal games like Ballionaire, Crypt Custodian, Cub. Great games, but maybe not the best, but we still recommend them. And then on sale after that, these are games that have their issues, but definitely still recommend if you want to pick it up on sale or whatever we said maybe got you interested in it. These are games like Wizard with a Gun, Hellscape. And then after that, we have Manager Special. These games, get on a deep discount, maybe free to play, but not something we really enjoyed or we don't really understand the appeal of the genre, but you might. So check that out. And then finally, spoiled milk games that we don't think anyone should play. I'm going to let you go first, Matthew.
Sounds good. I am gonna give Hollow Survivors just a solid on sale. It's a $10 game. I think again, if I feel like I always feel like most people are probably better at these sort of games than me. So I'm not going to knock it on like difficulty or the fact that I wasn't able to progress a lot because I do think there's a good amount that people will like here. I just think that what really like I was never really in the steel conversation or certified fresh juice conversation personally for this game because of the lack of variety, at least early on, and maybe the lack of story. Now that I hear about it, that there's a little bit more story that unravels. I'd like that a little bit earlier, maybe. So yeah, I'm just giving it a middle of the road on sale. I think if you're a fan of like Hades style games and you want something a little bit different, this is probably a good game for you. But yeah, I'm giving it an on sale. I do think a lot of games we play, or maybe not a lot, but some games we play really get the price wrong. Like where it's just like, what are
Mhm.
they thinking with a game like this? I think this game is like well priced. $10. I think it was on sale when it first launched, so it was even better deal. So yeah, if you can find this game on sale for even like 10% off, even I'd say it's fun if you're into this genre of game. But what are you thinking, Tommy? I feel like you were a little higher on the game than me, so I'm curious to know what you think.
Yeah, definitely a little higher. I'm like a low steal, right? I think this is a good game, right? There are some minor stuff that I kind of it was easier for me to overlook. There's a different or an actual degree of difficulty here, which I personally enjoyed because I did feel myself getting better at the game. So that was something that I always look for in these types of you know games in this genre. And I do like some of the different things they're doing here because this is like I don't. Let me look back. I mean, this is like one, two, three, like three of this kind of genre in a row that we've kind of talked about, and then there were more before that this year. So it's been a lot of it this year, and this one did feel fresh a little bit, in certain ways. So I enjoy that about it. I really love the art style, and you know, it's a nice bite-sized game for a nice bite-sized price as well at $9.99. I think that's great, and there's definitely a lot of love in this game as well, which I could definitely I felt playing it, and had a lot of intention behind it. So, it's not quite at the higher echelon of a steal for me, but at that lower steal, I think like you're not going to really regret playing this game, especially at its current price. So yeah, fun little one. Next week we have a game that has a lot of hype behind it. One that I played the demo for a while ago. I think maybe a year ago. Starvaders, a tactical deck builder or roguelike. I mean, name another buzzword, buddy. That is right up my alley. So that's going to be fun. And then after that, we head off to PAX. So we'll be talking about some games we played there, and hopefully have some great stories from that trip. We do have listener questions. These come from the Discord, which is free for everybody to join, as we mentioned earlier. First one comes from Capolo. How often do you refresh your gaming setup?
This is a good question, Capolo, because I had to think about this one a bit. Because, so I mainly play on PC. So typically when I'm refreshing things, it's like, oh, I got a new part, right? I got a new GPU or I got a new CPU or whatever it is. And I don't upgrade that stuff that often. I try to, whenever I upgrade my computer, I try to get like something that's like on the higher end because I know it'll like last me longer in terms of like, I typically like to play some of the latest games that require a little bit more intensity. And actually, my graphics card was the last thing I upgraded. I think maybe like 3 or 4 years ago. Maybe it wasn't even that long ago, but I played Starfield. Whenever Starfield came out, it was the first game in a while that didn't run well on my computer. Not that I even ended up playing it more, but I was like, oh, this is a sign I need to upgrade my computer. That's basically when I know is like when I boot up a game and like it's just choppy. I'm like, oh, I have to upgrade my computer. So maybe I'm refreshing my gaming setup for PC every like 7 to 10 years, I would say. And then as far as like, uh, other like peripherals and like keyboards and microphones, I'm rarely ever changing those at all. I'll just use them until they're broken or they're dead. And then for consoles, obviously we just pre-ordered the Switch 2. I have the original Switch. What was that? 2016 that came out, I think.
Yeah, something like that.
So I bought a PS. Like I kind of when it comes to consoles, I kind of just like really the Nintendo ones are the only ones I care about getting at launch. Everything else, I'm like, oh, I'll try to just PS5 I got like after launch because I couldn't get it at launch, and then I don't buy Xboxes anymore. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe every 7 to 10 years, I'm kind of refreshing it, but I'm always looking out for like more peripheral sort of stuff. Like I use a Stream Deck, which is really useful. I have like a little mini screen here that I have my Twitch chat on usually. So I'm always looking for like little things that are like under $100 that could really help improve the gaming setup for me since I do content. We do content as well. But yeah, I don't know. Good question, Capola. I had to think about that, but I think yeah, probably every like 7 to 10 years, I'm looking at like trying to get a new piece of hardware to like improve my setup.
And for me, this is my first PC that I would game on, really. Yeah, like I had like some gaming laptops in the past or whatever, but this was like the first time I like really like invested some money into something that I was going to game on and do content and stuff like that. And golly, when did I buy this? It might have been 2020 or maybe 2021. So
Yeah.
I think I'm getting close to the point where I'm going to have to at least upgrade some stuff. Because there are some games that like I'm just afraid that something's going to blow up when I'm playing it. Like just listening to my PC, I'm like, Jesus, what is going on down there? So I'm not really well versed in it. I am not really a hardware guy, like, or I never was. I try to always learn more about it. So like that is something that I wish I could just bring somewhere or have somebody come to my house and be like, just tell me what I need to do because I do not know. And
hey, there is a place,
where?
Micro Center. If you've ever been to,
yeah, I've heard of it. I mean, you can just bring your setup there.
They literally have a like it's almost like a Genius Bar thing, and you can just walk up and you can. I see people that just bring their PCs up there and they're like troubleshooting stuff, or like I was buying something for my computer. I forget what it was. I think it was a power supply, and I brought it up to the guy, and he's like, "Oh, you don't want that one." He's like, "This one's on sale, and it's better than the one that you're getting." And so I ended up spending less money for something that was better. So Micro Center is like awesome. I wish there was one closer to us, but if you ever need like, if you really don't know anything, like they are super helpful and super knowledgeable. You could literally just bring your PC there and be like, "This is my setup," or you might not even need to bring it there. You could just like have like a PC part picker list and be like, "This is my current setup. How do you recommend I upgrade it?" And they'll give you suggestions. Yeah, it's great.
That might be the play. That might be the play. I've never been there. I know I had met you guys out near there after you had gone. And I don't even think I had a PC set up at that point. So, or I had just gotten this one, so I didn't really need to go there.
Yeah.
So,
even Maria was like, because we went together. She was like, "Oh my god, this place is like amazing." I was like, "I know." I was like, "There should be one closer, but there's just not."
I just get so scared that I'm gonna lose everything. Now I do now have this bad boy right here, so I have a pretty good backup on everything at this point. But like I always would just like I just get like nervous. I don't want to lose my like any of the content stuff or whatever, but it's all there now, so that's good. But great question, Capolo. I should probably look into something, at least with my graphics card. I feel like at this point. So next question comes from K Moore. What games have you tried out because your favorite streamer or influencer played it?
Good question. So I mean, I have like streamers I watch. Like I mentioned Gathalion on here before. Like I like to watch him just because he's got a chill stream, plays chill music, and just kind of does what he wants. But I'm never really like super influenced by them to like buy a game. Really, I just like if I'm thinking about a game, like let's say Expedition 33, right? I'll just look up random streams of it or random videos and I'll just kind of like get an idea how the gameplay is. And then if I kind of, think it's interesting, I might throw a few questions in chat and maybe they answer and then like I'll end up like buying the game or not buying the game. It's really hard for me to think of like something that I was influenced to buy from specifically an influencer. The only thing that comes to mind is like, I mean, Animal Well, because like I knew Donkey was involved. I don't really watch Donkey, but like the fact he was involved, I was like, well, he really is like pretty well versed in like what makes a good game. So I'm like, this probably is going to be good, but I was going to get Animal Well anyway. So yeah, I don't know. I can't really think of anything that I was like influenced to buy from an influencer or streamer. What about you, Tom?
Looking back, Dallas the Dark Call, had watched a Let's Play of, and I think I shared it with you. I forget who it was. But I had watched it. I had a lot of fun watching that Let's Play. I'm like, I want to play this game. So that one was one that I definitely bought because of that. Enter the Gungeon. I think I actually bought it and then started watching streams of it.
Yeah.
Which
That's what happens to me too. Is like I'll buy a game, and like if I want to get better at the game, I'll watch streams of it,
yeah.
and like creators of it. Yeah, so it's almost like reverse. But yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I mean, like Balatro, the same thing happened with me there. I mean, if I count you, which you're technically a streamer, I definitely did get on the Valheim train with that.
Yeah,
Did I get on Knockout City because of you?
I don't know, maybe
I think
that.
maybe, but I think you just
R.I.P.
like said like, "Hey, let's play this game," and I said, "That seems sweet." That game was awesome, man.
Yeah, I
That was
know, I know. I would. There's been days where I'm like, man, it'd be fun to just play that right now, and
yeah.
especially on the Steam Deck. But yeah,
I'm just looking through my library right now. Mm, I don't really. I mean, so the game that we're playing next week, Star Vaders, I downloaded the demo because Northern Lion had played it and it looked fun. But yeah, other than that, I think really it. Yeah, but I think it's all well. And I heard people talk about Arco, and like didn't really watch streams of it. I just like did get influenced to get into it, and that game's like amazing. So
yeah,
yep. Good
yeah.
question. Yeah. I mean, how about you, K-More?
Yeah, what's weird is I've had people more recently being like, "Oh, I started playing this because of like your videos or your streams." And I'm just like,
What?
"I'm terrible at games." So I'm sure that's happened to you at some point too, like with Flesh and Blood. I'm sure you gotten some people into it.
Maybe.
Yeah, that's the
maybe.
thing too. Is like you don't really know, right? Unless they tell you. But
Yeah.
we're influencing people on this show. If you bought Hollow Survivors because of this review, put a comment down below. Let
Or
us know.
any of the games we've covered.
Yeah, let us know. That would be interesting.
Beyond Citadel.
Yeah,
Oh, what a wild game. But folks, it's been a great episode. Hollow Survivors, interesting one that we had different ideas on. Sometimes we fall, right in line with each other. This one, not so much, which is great. Sometimes
yep.
diversity in ideas is a great thing. I think diversity in general is a great thing. Now, speaking of diversity, the Rec Room, we always have something different to recommend for everybody. Rec Room is a little place we like to go and recommend something that is not quite an indie game or is an indie game sometimes, but what about this week? What do you have to recommend, Matthew?
So I alluded to this last week, mentioned it a little bit, but I was fortunate enough to get into the preview event for a new game called Dune Awakening.
Lisan
Uh,
Al Gaib.
yes, exactly. um and yeah, so I had like access for around 2 weeks to the preview game, or like a beta version of the game, made some videos on it, which is awesome. And then I also was lucky enough to be able to stream it. It was only you could only stream it for like a day last week, so I streamed it on Friday, and just had a blast playing it. Really, it is, I had a lot of questions coming in about the game, but even as someone that like I actually started playing this during the preview event before I even watched the movies. So I was really just going in being like, okay, this is like a survival game, kind of like MMO-ish sort of. Uh and just kind of looking at it through that lens. And then I watched the movies and I started to get like more appreciation for like the things I was seeing in the game and the things I was doing in the game. So there actually is going to be like a large beta happening on the weekend of May 9th when we're at PAX.
What?
So won't be able to play, but Dune Awakening will be at PAX. So I'll definitely be checking that out. But it's just it has so much care put into it, both from like the side of like people that like survival games and also like Dune lore. I don't really know a lot of Dune lore, but from what I've seen people say, they're like, wow, they're really being true to like the books and the movies for the game. So yeah, I think overall they've really done like a pretty strong job with the game. And I'm excited. There's still some things they got to work out and some kinks. Obviously, it's in beta, but it's supposed to be out like early June. June 10th is the official release date. You can play it early June 5th if you get like their Ultimate Edition or whatever. But yeah, I'm recommending Dune Awakening. Check it out, especially if you can get into that beta weekend. Might as well, right? It's free. You can request to get into that beta on Steam. I'm also giving away some keys in my own Discord if you're interested in that. But Dune Awakening, honestly a game that like I didn't think was really gonna wow me because I had never, I don't know much about Dune. Obviously, after watching the movies, I'm like, this is awesome. I know I've talked to you about it. I'm like, this is, I can't believe I hadn't watched them before. But also just everything about the world. Obviously there's the big sandworm. What do they call it? Shalahadun or whatever.
The Shahalud or
Yeah.
whatever.
So that's always fun and like exhilarating to try to like make sure you're not going to get eaten. Yeah, they just do a lot of really cool things. It's got some good gunplay in it. There's a few things that I'm not crazy about with the game, but I think overall, they've done a good job. So, and I think one of the coolest things that they're doing is that they're releasing the game as a full release on June
Nice.
10th, not early access, not a beta, nothing like that. Like they are planning for this to be a full release. They got a full roadmap. And I mean, it's published by Funcom. So if those of you are familiar with like Conan Exiles, or they've published a lot of different games. But I think it's a great direction to go, especially with all the early access survival games that we've had in the past. Just make it a full game. Give us a good roadmap for like DLC and expansions and things like that. And yeah, I think they're set up for success. So check out Dune Awakening if you haven't checked it out yet. I've got some videos on my channel, Matty Gorm, about it if you're interested. But there's a lot of content out there right now because the embargo lifted. So just check it out wherever you can and let me know what you think. But there you go.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen some stuff. I'm a Dune fan. I read the book, at least the first one. I haven't read Messiah yet, but I heard that you don't really have to read much after Messiah, so I probably won't. But there's a bunch of books, but we'll see. It does look pretty sweet from what I've seen. The Duneverse is so cool.
Yeah.
The movies are good. That second one's really good, and I probably will play this game as well because as a Dune fan, I'd be remiss not to. So it looks pretty sick. I'm excited for you to be doing some early stuff for it. And funny enough, my recommendation this week has some Dune like tie-ins a little bit.
All right.
I just finished a book called The Bone Ships. Now, I bought this book a while ago, and it just kind of looked cool. And I saw it was a series. I was like, okay, let me read the first one, see if I like it, and then if I do, I'll get the other two books and I'll read those too. So I'm recommending it. So obviously, I got the other two books and I'll be reading them now. The way it's like Dune is actually a few ways, but interesting enough, this book it's a seafaring kind of fantasy, right? Nautical fantasy. I guess, not quite, you don't really have guns, but like a lot of crossbows and stuff like that. So if you kind of put yourself in this world now,
just like Dune.
Just like Dune. No, the Dune tie-in will come in soon, but the Dune will come soon. But the cool thing about this world is there's no, at least in this known world that you're kind of exploring, there's no like wood. There's no like trees on these islands. It's all archipelagos, right? It's like a bunch of small islands, and there's two huge nations, the Gaunt Islanders and then the 100 Islanders, and you're following some 100 Islanders. And to build ships, that was
going to be my next question.
Yeah, you need bones. You need the bones of these sea dragons. They're called Arquetians, and they're extinct, right? They haven't seen an Arquetian in hundreds of years, and you follow this character named Joran Twiner, who is kind of like I guess, convicted or sentenced to a life on this black ship, which is basically a ship that is dying. Like the bones are old and they're rotting, so it like looks black and it's not fully updated. And anyone on that ship is basically sentenced to death. So he's the captain of the ship, and then along comes this like famous captain, and she's like, no, I'm the captain now. And she takes him as like a second in command, and he comes to find out that they're on this special mission. There's basically an Arquetian was spotted, so they need to go find it. And it has this like really like interesting prose to it, and like this author RJ Barker really spins a lot of things on its head in terms of like terminology and this world. He builds a whole world and like changes all the rules that you would know about like a nautical themed thing, and he creates a whole different idea for it. And that's where I felt like it was like Dune, because if you read the book or if you play the game or watch the movie, that's a lot of different names, places, world building. And really the first 50 pages of this book, it takes you a minute. You're like, man, there's a lot going on here. But once you get used to it, you're like, okay. And the character development in this book was so good. It was like some of the best. Like I found myself just being like kind of wowed. And like, it doesn't happen in books a lot for me where I'm just like, whoa, like that, where it didn't feel like it was out of left field, but like you felt like this gradual progression. And I really like that. And kind of these Arquetians, kind of like these sea dragons, feel a little bit like the sandworms in a way. Not exactly. They're not like a real threat if you're like if you're like
you're just
walking.
sailing.
Yeah. Like they're just like really important to this like kind of economy and like this thing. And it really writes like nautical warfare in a great way. And you're just like, man, this is sick. Like you're reading, like you felt like I felt like I was like really in this battle with this, not really a narrator, but it's kind of through the Joran Twiner's eyes. So really good. Excited to read the other two books. So check out The Bone Ships. If you're a reader out there, you like nautical stuff, I would definitely recommend it. I know that there is a audiobook version, though I hear that because of all the terminology, it might be hard to do the audiobook. So I would recommend reading, but you might be able to do the audiobook if you're interested. So yeah, The Bone Ships. I'm excited to read the next one. I'll probably start that tomorrow.
Yeah, so this is a second book in a series? Or?
I've read the first book. The Bone Ships is the first. It really it's like a fun nautical theme thing, and the other two are probably all following suit because, I mean, like, spoiler alert if you're gonna read it, but like basically like there might be more of these sea dragons, right? Like, so which is like, you could probably draw that conclusion. They're writing more books for it, so there's more going on. So, but like a lot of twists and turns, and the character development is just, I thought was like second to none.
I feel like this would be a pretty cool movie too.
Yes.
It sounds awesome. And that was one thing with like just watching the movies for Dune that I was, I know they're like a little bit longer of movies. Actually, I thought they could have been longer and I would have been fine with it. But yeah, the world building and like just like even playing the game, like you just feel like you're part of this world because every little detail, everything from their names to the locations to the way they build their like housing, like it's part of this desert, everything is like really well done. So yeah, that's awesome that like, he kind of went the full, the whole 9 yards with it, like didn't spare any expense. And also just I think a really cool concept too. I probably should have known that the ships were made of bone. But I forgot the name of the title when I asked it. But that's very cool.
Yeah, it was sick. It was sick. So I recommend it.
Is because we're ending month number 4. Is this, what book number is this? Because I know you want to do it one book a month, right?
That's my 6th book I've read this year, so I'm well ahead. Nice. I'll probably, in the next month probably read another one or two at least. So, I'm gonna eclipse it, no problem.
Nice. And now, are you you just read physical books
Yeah.
every time? Yeah.
Yeah. I do not like on the phone or anything like that. I know my wife can do that. I watched her actually reading on the plane today. Reading something on her phone, but that's not really my thing. I read on the treadmill. I just pop in like some dungeon synth or like dark ambient, and I just read.
Yeah.
It helps you put yourself in the world a little bit more. I felt.
Yeah.
So I like doing that. So I read it on the plane today too. But
Nice.
yeah. But that's going to do it, folks. Another great app in the books. Can't wait to play Star Vaders. Can't wait to go to PAX and, just get to episode 100. And then maybe we'll do episode 101. Who knows?
Yeah, we'll just call it quits after 100. Yeah. That's what's in the contract, folks.
You can continue to find me on all socials at Fresh Buds Pod. I have another podcast called Fresh and Buds. Please check it out. We got some great episodes coming on down the pipes, as well as some great ones that are out currently. You can find us on all socials at Fresh Juice Pod. And where can people find you, Matt?
Find me at Matty Gorm. I've been posting more on YouTube and TikTok. Been branching out from Once Human a bit. Still doing some Once Human content, but doing some content around Dune, doing some content around RuneScape Dragon Wilds, that is. And been having a lot of fun with it, and the support's been amazing. So if you're interested in any of those sort of survival kind of games, check out the channel, because I'm posting content on it. But there we go, Tommy. That's it.
That's it. Another great episode in the books. And you know what else is pretty good? Fresh juice.